You're listening to Real Life, No Filter, where raw emotions and real moments take center stage. No masks, no filters. Just honest stories about life, love, and everything in between. Get comfortable. We're about to begin. Son, what are you grumbling about under your breath? Join us. Let's have some beer, and your blues will vanish like magic. A hearty, rolling laugh echoed from the table. Matthew flushed deeply and hurried out of the room. How could his mother not be ashamed? She knew perfectly well how he couldn't stand her home gatherings. He needed to study, and eating wouldn't hurt either, not to mention updating his wardrobe and buying something decent. Before, only his classmates mocked him, but now even the teachers looked at him with disapproval. Just yesterday, for instance, Mrs. Peterson asked, "Matthew, don't you have any other pants? These are completely worn out, see-through like old gauze." And what was he supposed to say? Admit that he really didn't have any others? He wore those pants with such caution, as if afraid to breathe too deeply, knowing that the slightest awkward movement and they would split at the seams. Sometimes he didn't want to go to school at all. Matthew often skipped classes anyway, especially when the kitchen at his mother's was filled with smoke until morning. How could he study then? Only towards morning could he finally fall asleep, but no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't wake up on time. They didn't have an alarm clock. There was only an old wall clock, but it was absolutely silent. Matthew stood in the middle of the room, thinking. What was there to do? He was unbearably hungry, but he wouldn't go into the kitchen. If there was anything left there, it had surely been eaten as snacks long ago. He waved his hand and went outside. He'd wander around for a bit. Maybe they'd be gone by the time he returned. Judging by their state, they were firmly settled in for the long haul. He wandered around the city for a long time, but didn't meet anyone he knew. His stomach wasn't just rumbling anymore, it was openly screaming with hunger. Sitting on a bench, Matthew plucked a leaf from a tree and chewed it. A man sat down next to him, a little distance away. He was dressed quite respectably, but something in his appearance hinted at someone who had spent time in prison. And of course, I was already about to leave. Don't worry if I'm disturbing you. We can certainly fit here together. Sitting down, he pulled out a pack of cigarettes and offered one to Matthew. Want one? No, thank you. I don't smoke. Good for you. At your age, I see many are already puffing away non-stop. And it's very harmful. Matthew smirked. Then why do you? The man burst into laughter. I know myself, and I even know it's better without them, but I haven't decided to quit yet. But I want to assure you, this is my only bad habit. Honest word. Matthew definitely liked the man's answer, and then he suddenly turned to him. Listen, I just arrived in the city. Can you tell me where I can get a hearty meal around here? The guy involuntarily swallowed. Right here, just around the corner, there's a shashlik place. They basically cook different things there, but shashlik is their specialty. Oh, shashlik is wonderful. How about you join me? I don't like eating alone. Matthew hesitated. I don't know. It's settled. Let's go. You can also tell me what changes have happened in the city during my absence. They settled at a table, and Matthew greedily inhaled the air. Lord, what aromas! The man looked at him, then sharply closed the menu and turned to the waiter. 2 shashliks for us, and a fresh vegetable salad. Tea for the young man, coffee for me. We'll see about the rest later. The waiter disappeared instantly. Matthew even turned around, trying to figure out where he had gone so quickly. My name is Mr. Harrison, and yours? I'm Matthew. Their order arrived, and the conversation flowed more easily. Well, tell me, Matthew, why are your eyes sad, and why are you walking alone? At your age, you should have friends around. Matthew stopped chewing. I don't have friends. Who needs someone like me? Poor, always broke. I don't study well either. That's why there's no one around. Mr. Harrison asked questions so skillfully that Matthew didn't even notice how he poured out his whole life story, how they used to live, how his father died, how his mother started drinking afterwards and brought anyone into the house, how they teased him at school, how hard his life was in general. Do you pity yourself, Matthew? Matthew looked at Mr. Harrison in surprise. He was strange. And what? Should I rejoice? Anyone would howl like a wolf from such a life. And he's still a teenager. What can he do? I see you pity yourself. And may I be curious? How old are you? 15. Wow. At 15, I already bought my mom gold earrings for her birthday. Ah, those were the times. No time to sleep. You'd run home from school, grab something on the go, and head outside. There was so much to do. Wash someone's car, run to the store for someone, or load and unload things. In a week, I earned more than my mum did in a month as a cleaner. And in the evening, when no one was outside, we'd work out. We had our own gym in the basement. Of course, not like yours now, but homemade. Barbells from car wheels, pull-up bars from rebar. But we were happy. We always wore tank tops so everyone could see how pumped up we were. Mr. Harrison smiled, remembering the past, and then looked strictly at Matthew. And you just study poorly, look bad, and cry about it. You're wrong, brother. Oh, so wrong. Matthew stared at the man, literally with his mouth open, and he was speaking the pure truth. Everything was right. What was stopping Matthew from doing the same? Nothing. Just the habit of feeling sorry for himself. Matthew, I don't have time right now, but jot down your address for me. I'll drop by for a visit, and we'll talk more. Matthew wrote the address on a napkin and stood up. Thank you. You're welcome. We'll see each other again. Remember one thing, Matthew. You can only not get out of a coffin. Everything else can be fixed, survived, changed. I understand. Matthew headed home with a firm intention to kick out everyone who was there. However, he didn't have to kick anyone out. There was no one home. His mother had also gone somewhere. He sighed with relief. Good. At least he would finally get some sleep. The next day after school, he didn't go straight home, deciding to walk around the city. Almost immediately, he noticed furniture being unloaded near a house. New residents were apparently moving in. He was about to walk past, but then decided to risk it. Sir, do you need help with unloading? A man of about 50 looked at him with an appraising gaze. Well, it wouldn't hurt. How much will you charge? Whatever you give, that's what it will be. All right, it's a deal. We'll get it up to the 3rd floor. Matthew helped carry things for almost an hour. It could have gone much faster, but the sofa got stuck in the doorway, and it wasn't immediately possible to disassemble it. When the sofa was also in the apartment, the owner handed him a 1,000-ruble note. Thank you. I would have been struggling here until night on my own. Oh, that's too much. It's fine. You need it more. Matthew wanted to be offended. The man was clearly hinting at his shabby clothes, but then he decided to let it go. At least he had money in his hands, and it wasn't a small amount. Matthew looked at his watch. He still had time. He almost ran to a small shop located near their yard. Many such shops with the strange name Second had opened recently. He knew the clothes there weren't new, but he didn't care. At least they were decent. Matthew opened the apartment door, sure that his mother was having another celebration. But the house was quiet. Matthew was even more surprised when, instead of the smell of tobacco smoke, he smelled something edible. He cautiously stepped into the kitchen. His mother was washing the window, and something was bubbling in a pot on the stove. By the way, the stove was also sparkling clean. "Mom?" She turned around. "Matthew, I didn't even hear you come in. I'll feed you now." Matthew stood there bewildered, then just as bewildered asked, "What's going on?" "Nothing special. I just decided to finally clean up. I've been so—" "Don't worry, son. I won't be like that anymore. I promised your friend." "Friend?" Matthew stopped understanding anything at all. "Mom, what friend?" "Well, a very serious man." Matthew noticed a flicker of fear in his mother's eyes, but it disappeared immediately. "Here, Matthew, he left this for you." She handed him an envelope and a wad of money. "And I didn't take anything, absolutely nothing." Matthew stared at the money in confusion, then sat down on a chair. He looked at the envelope for a long time, but finally opened it. "Matthew, things turned out so that I had to leave urgently. I talked to your mother. I think she won't drink anymore. But a lot will depend on you, too. From your eyes, I understood that you guessed where I came from. Yes, I forgot to tell you the most important thing. In our life, it's important to forgive. In our life, it's important to stop in time so that it doesn't turn out like it did for me. Money is addictive and deprives you of reason, and a person must have reason. But the most important thing is the ability to admit your mistakes and be able to correct them. Never try to pretend that something doesn't concern you. If you can fix it, if everything depends on you, then definitely try to fix everything. I couldn't back then. I didn't push hard enough back then. I lost my temper. And then I didn't change, didn't fix it, although I had the opportunity. Now I'm alone, completely alone. Being alone is hard. When everything settles down, we'll meet, I promise. Don't be offended at your mum. She just needed support. I didn't provide a father because I was small and weak myself. I believe in you. I saw your eyes, and I'm sure you'll handle everything." Matthew lowered the letter, looked at the money. Wow. "Mum, what did he say?" "Oh, nothing special. He just said that when he can, he'll definitely stop by." 3 years passed. Few would recognize in Matthew the timid, thin boy who greedily devoured shashlik at the cafe. Sitting on a bench among other guys was a muscular, confident young man. He lazily moved a match from one corner of his mouth to the other. "Well, decided? Punish him? Is anyone against it?" "Yes, but Matthew—" "But you know no one will dare to object. Then tonight at the restaurant." "Okay, see you tonight." Matthew watched the guys quickly walk away and smiled contentedly. For almost a year now, they had been playing Robin Hood, specifically punishing those who considered themselves the golden youth. And they didn't do it just for fun, but always for a reason. Yesterday, at the restaurant where they often gathered, there was an unpleasant incident. The owner of the establishment was a good acquaintance of theirs. It was he who told them that cool boys had been frequently visiting his restaurant. Well, how cool. By themselves, they were nothing, but with their parents' money, they somehow tried to buy power and respect. Although no, rather fear and submission, and very often they succeeded. The restaurant owner himself couldn't put them in their place. His establishment would simply be closed the next day because it would be foolish to compete with their parents. So he turned to Matthew. Last night, these thugs decided to pick on a young waitress. Matthew had seen this girl a couple of times. Pretty, petite, with huge, sad eyes. She only worked evening shifts, which meant she studied during the day, or maybe she had other things going on. As luck would have it, they had a scheduled training session yesterday. 3 times a week, they went to a vacant lot and sparred there. There were no people there, and if someone accidentally wandered in, they hurried to leave as quickly as possible because the fights there were serious. So yesterday, while they were there, 2 from the Golden Youth Company decided to make Anna a punching bag. It all started when one of them knocked over a glass of juice onto the floor. "Hey, come here!" Anna immediately came over. "Wipe all this up quickly. I'll call the cleaner now." "What did I tell you? Wipe it all up quickly." Anna could barely hold back tears. "That's not part of my duties." She turned to leave, but one of the guys blocked her path. "Stop. We're not finished yet. I'm a client. The client is always right, isn't that so?" Tears were already streaming down Anna's cheeks. "Yes. So you have to do what I say, right? Go on, wipe it up." "I don't have anything to wipe it with." Alice came over to them. She had been working here for several months and knew perfectly well that arguing with this crowd was useless. She was the one who had brought Anna here. "What happened? Girls, do you want to continue working here?" Alice looked at the guys in confusion. You. If your friend doesn't do what we tell her, then tomorrow both of you won't be working here." But Anna pushed Alice aside, took off her snow-white apron, and wiped the juice with it. "There, just as you asked." She walked away, accompanied by the guys' laughter, and as soon as she reached the back room, she felt sick. Anna had a real hysterical fit. She even sank to the floor. Alice helped her up. "Here, you go home. I'll finish up here myself." "How? What if the owner finds out?" "He won't find out. We won't tell him anything." But it didn't work out. The 2 from the company got so drunk that they were completely out of their minds, demanding Anna, waving money in front of Alice, asking how much that girl would charge for a night with both of them. Alice tried her best to smooth over the conflict, but in the end, the guys just started trashing the restaurant. They had to call the owner. He arrived quickly, followed immediately by the police. The company was taken away, but then released just around the corner. Alice saw this clearly. She was just lowering the blinds on the windows. The owner was waiting inside. "Well, tell me what happened here." Alice started. Then other waiters picked up the story. The owner listened to everything and said, "You understand that Anna will have to quit." Alice stared at him in surprise. "But why? She didn't do anything wrong." "I understand, Alice, but they won't leave her alone anyway." "But she absolutely cannot quit. If Anna doesn't earn money, you know her mother is sick in bed." "I know. But what do you suggest?" One of the waiters looked at everyone, then said, "We just need to tell Matthew. These guys are completely out of line." No, are you crazy? And what do you have to do with it? Who will guess it was you?" Alice also turned to the restaurant owner. "Mr. Davies, but you are a fair man." "But what is this? What are you suggesting? Lose my business? You understand perfectly well. It's easiest for me to fire Anna. No problem. No need to solve it." The staff dispersed gloomily. Alice quietly cried, cleaning the hall. The owner came up to her. "Don't cry. I have an idea, but I'm not sure it's the right one. And on the one hand, I myself want people to come to our restaurant to relax, not to get into such messes. On the other hand, you can ruin everything at once and only harm your Anna more." "I understand you, Mr. Davies." Alice really understood him. Mr. Davies, though a businessman, was actually a kind person. So Mr. Davies turned to Matthew. Word travels fast, and many knew what they were doing. Only no one knew anything for sure. Many had heard about such Robin Hood gangsters, were a little afraid, but couldn't connect the athlete guys with crime. Matthew and his comrades, or accomplices, you could call them whatever you wanted, were sitting at a corner table. There was no alcohol on the table. The whole team adhered to a healthy lifestyle. Anna was serving their table. Matthew was twirling a coloured wire in his hands. Lately, he had become so engrossed in weaving with it that he always carried a few pieces with him. They talked quietly, discussing the latest boxing match that had recently taken place in their city. Matthew lazily watched the girl. She was cute, so naive, pure, and beautiful. It was clear from her eyes that life hadn't particularly pampered her. Anna quickly darted between tables, smiled at the visitors, and they involuntarily smiled back. Suddenly, the girl turned at someone's call. Yesterday's company stumbled into the restaurant. One of them immediately headed towards her. It was a rather plump young man, very pale and flabby. His eyes attracted special attention, whitish, watery. "Hey, come here!" Anna backed away. The guy laughed. "Don't be afraid. I won't touch you for free. Only for money. You're coming with me tonight." Matthew was instantly between them. "Ollie, what brings you here?" The guy stared at him in surprise. "I'm not Ollie." He tried to go around Matthew, but he didn't let him. "How can you not be Ollie? Don't you remember? You borrowed a very large sum of money from me." "Listen, get lost. I'm not Ollie." The guy's eyes darted around the hall, but Anna was no longer there. "I don't understand why you, Ollie, say you didn't take the money. You did. Just get lost." The guy turned around and went towards his company. Matthew also returned to his seat. "Well, what's up?" "I think an hour, no more. This one's also pretty drunk." Less than an hour passed before the same guy separated from the company and stumbled across the hall. Two more followed him. They were clearly looking for Anna. One of the guys saw Alice. "Oh, you sheep! Where's your girlfriend?" Alice turned away, for which she immediately received a kick. "Well, now it's time." Matthew lost sight of the guy with the transparent eyes. He covered the distance to the back room in 2 jumps, and just in time. The guy, covering Anna's mouth with his hand, was trying to press her against himself. Matthew knocked him out with one blow. Then everything happened very quickly. The company was packaged, literally, and thrown out onto the street. Of course, the advantage was on Matthew and his guy's side. Very soon, the Golden Youth Company was pinned against the wall of the building. "Well, Ollie, are we going to pay the debt?" "I'm not, Ollie. You're mistaken. And anyway, pray, my dad will grind you into dust." "I don't doubt it." Half an hour later, everyone agreed that the guy's name was Ollie. Everyone chipped in everything they had with them to pay off the mythical debt. The sum was decent, but Matthew sighed. "Not enough. Okay, you'll pay the rest next time. You understand that you absolutely shouldn't show your face to me again? Otherwise, I'll start the meter, and I won't be so kind anymore." "I understand." Simon was the son of a well-known man in the city. Moreover, his own sister had married the police chief's son last year. He wanted only one thing, to get to his dad, and then this handsome guy would be finished. He understood perfectly well that money had nothing to do with it. This guy needed something else. And when Matthew said that getting close to Anna meant certain death for them, Simon understood everything. "You should have warned me that she's your girl." "Whose?" Oh, really? And who are you? Ollie, whose debt grows every day. All right, all right. Well, now for the finale. Take off your pants. The company stared at Matthew in fear. He smiled gently. Don't be afraid. A photo for memory, so you keep your mouths shut. Otherwise, our little newspapers, oh, they're so fond of such photos. 6 months later, Matthew had to leave the city. The law enforcement agencies had become very interested in their activities. His mother cried. Matthew, why do you need all this? You could just get a normal job. Mum, stop it. Everything's fine. I left you money. I'll be back in a few months, and everything will be as before. Mrs. Miller sat on the sofa, wiping away tears. The traces of her drinking had long disappeared from her face. The woman was unrecognizable now, well-groomed, with light makeup. She was 40, but looked no older than 35. Mom, have you thought about getting married again? Mrs. Miller laughed through her tears. What are you saying? What kind of bride would I be? Mum, you're wrong about that. Look how beautiful you are. Stop it. Let me help you get ready. Matthew and 2 others from his team left. They decided to go to the capital. There were more opportunities there. None of them thought about getting caught or even going to jail by enriching themselves at the expense of the rich kids. Only romance was in their heads. And romance, as is known, is impossible without money. Things were going well for the guys in the capital. However, one of them got married almost immediately and left the business. But Matthew wasn't offended. It was right. Everyone should live the way they want. Very quickly, they formed a new team, and life went on as usual. Another 6 months passed, and Matthew learned that Uncle Simon, the very one who had caused problems, had been removed from his post as police chief, and that meant he could finally visit his mother. Matthew drove slowly through the city streets. Nothing seemed to have changed, but everything felt so unfamiliar. He felt like he hadn't been away for very long, but it was so pleasant. He stopped near the house, looked at the windows. He hadn't warned his mother about his arrival, deciding to make it a surprise. He went up to his floor, took the keys from his pocket, but then changed his mind and pressed the doorbell. The door opened almost immediately. Matthew! His mother rushed to hug him. He looked at her and couldn't understand what was wrong. Then he understood. His mother's eyes were shining, and the reason for that sparkle wasn't him at all. Matthew immediately noticed men's shoes and a coat. Mom, it looks like you've had some changes in your personal life. His mother blushed. Matthew, you were gone. I was all alone. Mom, stop it. Why are you justifying yourself? I'm just happy for you. Will you introduce us? His mother didn't have time to answer. Behind Matthew, a voice was heard, already so familiar. The guy turned sharply. Mr. Harrison stood before him. He spread his arms. Well, something like that. I came to visit you, and it looks like I'm staying forever. He looked at Mrs. Miller, and Matthew saw how the man's gaze changed. Damn. Unexpected. But what can I say? I'm glad it's you. They finally hugged. The day flew by unnoticed. His mother set the table. Matthew noticed that the room had been renovated, and the bathroom was currently being renovated. Alex said, You should have warned me. I would have hurried with the renovation. It's a bit awkward now. And you did all this yourself? Myself, of course. I'm a builder by profession. Life just twisted me around later, threw me in directions that weren't always right. Now I have some money, and I've run around enough. I want to open my own renovation company. We'll do business with Mrs. Miller and live happily. I didn't think you went to school. How could I not? What kind of self-education did I get? Matthew looked at him in confusion. Well, I'm busy. Mr. Harrison shook his head. You're busy now, while you're young, while everything is fine with you. But when you want to settle down, get married, you can't live like this anymore. Why? I have enough money. What about a wife and children? You understand that you will be very vulnerable. Matthew hadn't thought about this before. What did that mean? The way he lived wasn't forever. And a man like Mr. Harrison was telling him this. Honestly, Matthew was a little confused. At first, this man had told him completely different things. Mr. Harrison seemed to understand what Matthew was thinking. Do you know what I got a hefty sentence for? What for? When you live like you do, and I lived pretty much the same way, you feel impunity. Your head is foggy. It seems like the whole world is at your feet, that you can do anything, and nothing will happen to you for it. Once, in some regular showdown, I just miscalculated. A person, even if not a very good one, is no longer here. And I threw away almost 10 years of my life. Don't repeat my mistakes. As soon as you feel that you are capable of something more, quit this. Matthew was in a slight trance. How could this be? He thought he was living correctly, even more correctly and better than many. And now it turned out that this wasn't it either. Studying. By the way, he often thought about studying, but he considered it somehow not cool or something. Mom, I'm going to go sit in a bar. Sonny, Mom knows everything. Don't drink too much. Don't get into fights. Don't get acquainted with bad girls. Mrs. Miller laughed. Well, you know everything yourself. Matthew's legs led him to that very restaurant. He sat down at a table, hoping in his heart that Anna would come over to him. But Alice came. She took his order, but came back 5 minutes later. Is that you, Matthew? He smiled. Exactly. Where's your friend, Anna? Alice sighed. She doesn't work here anymore. And Alice waved her hand, not finishing. I don't understand. Did something happen? Then, after everything that happened, that nasty guy started coming here often. He just wouldn't leave Anna alone, showered her with gifts and flowers. I don't know what happened to her. We all think that the large amount of money went to her head. Anyway, she quit. They got married not too long ago. But love is blind. What love? Now she hangs out in one bar with so-called girlfriends, then in another. Her photos are in the local newspapers every morning. The girl has completely gone off the rails. I don't understand anything. Are you sure you're talking about Anna? Exactly. We're all in shock, too. We still think that Simon just forced her. Now she's completely losing it. She was such a good girl. And where? Which bars does she go to? The most popular one here, around the corner. It's called Night Bird, and she can change several places in one evening. Okay, keep the money. I'm going for a walk. And eat the order yourselves. Everything's fine. Matthew went outside. What the hell? Anna in clubs? Anna married? Of course, he didn't know what was going on inside her, but her eyes couldn't lie. He went into the bar. It wasn't here a year ago. Everything inside was modern, almost like in the capital. There were a lot of people, mostly young. The fun was in full swing. There was a commotion near the stage. Matthew looked closer. Some girl was trying to get to the pole. Finally, she succeeded. The girl was already quite drunk. And when she turned around, he recognized Anna with surprise. Matthew was on the stage in 2 jumps, grabbed her in his arms, and simply carried her out of the bar. He shoved Anna into a taxi standing nearby. "Who are you?" She stared at him with cloudy eyes, then hiccuped. "It can't be. Robin Hood himself. What brings you to our province?" She spoke in such a mocking tone that Matthew wanted to hit her. He didn't answer, turned to the driver. "We could use some strong coffee." Anna immediately shrieked. "No coffee? Only whiskey?" The taxi driver stopped at a cafe that was open at night. Matthew seated the girl at a table and ordered 2 coffees. Anna drank in small sips and looked everywhere but at him. He spoke first. "And what's going on with you? What?" Anna finally raised her eyes to him, and then Matthew saw how much pain and longing were in them. And also, he noticed a very skillfully concealed bruise under her eye. "Okay, and what is this?" "What? A bruise? What do you care? You live your life and live it. Why are you interfering? Why did you even show up?" There weren't many people, but everyone turned around because Anna was almost shouting. "Anna, let's go for a walk." Matthew took her arm and led her towards the park. Anna didn't resist. She leaned against him, and the guy felt her heart beating. He didn't understand what was happening at all, and really wanted to sort everything out. Of course, he was nobody to her, but maybe she needed help. They reached the river, and Anna sat down right on the grass. The corner was very quiet, surrounded by acacia trees on all sides. She shivered. Matthew took off his thin jacket and put it over her shoulders. Then he sat down next to her. They sat in silence for a while. Then Matthew tried to speak. "Anna, She turned to him sharply, told him to be quiet, and covered his mouth with a kiss. They woke up when the sky was already getting light. Anna jumped up and started getting dressed quickly. "Anna, don't say anything, just be quiet." But she looked at him in such a way that he understood. It was better to be silent. Anna was a goddess. If before he had only suspected it, now he was convinced. But there was one but that he couldn't digest. Anna, out of her mind, kept repeating in the heat of passion, "I love you." Now he couldn't understand whether these words were directed at him or not. Although she called him by name, so it was probably him. Matthew jumped up, but Anna was already gone. Out of the corner of his ear, he heard her calling a taxi somewhere behind the acacia bushes. He quickly got dressed and caught up with her at the exit of the park. "Anna, wait, we need to talk." "No!" "Anna, what do you mean, no? Stop!" He pulled her arm. Anna stopped, then brought her face close to his. "Go to hell. I don't want to see you, understand? Never in my life. Get away from me." He saw tears in her eyes, saw that the girl was on the verge of a breakdown. He just raised his hands, and she ran away. A minute later, a car door slammed. Matthew grabbed his head. What was going on? She shouldn't have left. He knew for sure that Anna couldn't love that jerk Simon. Was it all because of money? No, he wouldn't leave it like that. He would definitely find a way to talk to her. Matthew walked towards home, cautiously went into his room, and collapsed onto the bed to sleep. For the next 3 days, he methodically searched the bars. Anna didn't appear. Then he found out the address where she lived with her husband and went there. Of course, he wouldn't go in, but he would definitely wait for her. He sat on a bench just so he could see the entrance. He twirled a wire in his hands. He always did that when he needed to calm his nerves. He had almost finished weaving something that looked like a pendant and stared at his creation in surprise. It had never turned out so beautifully before. "What are you doing here?" He jumped up. Anna stood before him. "Anna, We need to talk. I told you everything. You don't need to come to me. I'm married. I will live with my husband. Anna, you don't love him. So what? What difference does it make who loves whom? What? Are you with him because of money? Yes. And that's none of your business. Consider that nothing ever happened between us. And don't come to me. But I don't want to. And you don't want to, I know. You're hurting, Anna. Leave everything. Let's go away. No one will ever find us. You'll be happy, and you'll make me happy. No. Why? It has to be this way. Go away. She glanced at his hand, took the woven pendant. It's beautiful. Can I keep it as a souvenir? He nodded and saw her eyes. There was so much pain in them. Forgive me, Matthew. Forgive me. She quickly pressed her lips to his. Go. It's better if you leave today. And just leave. I don't want to see you anymore. She walked quickly towards the house, and Matthew stood and watched her go. So, it was about money after all. How wrong he was about her. He came home and started packing his things into a bag. Mrs. Miller came into his room. Son, are you leaving already? He turned around, trying to smile as naturally as possible. Yes, Mom, it's time. I have a lot to do, and I want to look into studying. Alex, your husband, is right. You can't chase butterflies your whole life. Mrs. Miller sat down on the edge of the bed. When should I expect you now? Mom, honestly, I don't know. Not any time soon. But you can always come to me. I have my own apartment, even if it's small. It's cramped, but we'll be happy. When Matthew returned to Moscow, his friend William looked at him in surprise. What's wrong? You seem strange. Is everything okay at home? Yes, everything's fine at home. Listen, Will, do you have anything to drink? William raised his eyebrows. You don't drink. I don't, but I really want to right now. Will silently placed a bottle of cognac, 2 low glasses, a lemon, and chocolate in front of him. Just as silently, he poured, and they drank. Well, Matthew, now tell me. There's nothing to tell. He started reluctantly, but by the end of the bottle, he had told him everything. Will looked at him thoughtfully. Something's not right here. I thought so too. Like she's afraid of him, he beats her and all that. But I offered. I offered to protect her, to leave. You should have heard how indignantly she lectured me. As if it wasn't her who was with me until morning, hot as lava. Okay, don't freak out. Some time will pass, and you'll look at all this from the outside. Matthew sighed. You're right, and I understand that. It takes time. By the way, I have an idea. William leaned forward. Well, this is interesting. Will, do you have money? What kind of question is that? How much do you need? I don't need any. How do you feel about opening something like an agency, security services, but not for warehouses, for example, security for a specific person, help in resolving disputes? Well, something legal, like starting a business. Uh-huh. I think it's embarrassing for us to play cowboys and Indians anymore. And I like it. I haven't told you, but not long ago I met a girl. She's so... In short, I increasingly feel like I want to marry her and have children with her. Willie, congratulations. Yes, thank you, of course. But you see, she works as a music teacher at an orphanage, and I can't even imagine how she would react to my hobby. Olivia, she's so elevated, gentle, soulful. Sometimes I look at her and realize that I'm afraid to be away from her even for an hour. It seems to me that something will definitely happen to her. Will, you're a romantic. I didn't expect that from you. You know how I always felt about love. It was true. Of their whole group, Will was the only one who hated marriage and family, perhaps because during his life he had 9 stepfathers, and each tried to contribute to his upbringing. Until Will grew up, got strong on their vacant lot, and beat the last stepfather within an inch of his life, for which he almost went to jail. However, one conversation with that man was enough for their company to make him withdraw the statement. And now Will talks about his Olivia, and his eyes just sparkle. 7 years passed since then. Matthew sat in his office. Their agency's office was located in a beautiful new building, almost in the center of the capital. Not everything came easily to them. They had to resort to extreme measures a few times, but they succeeded. Now Matthew was a very eligible bachelor. If he appeared at some reception or party, all the unmarried ladies in the city knew about it and rushed there. William, his friend and deputy, was already the father of 2 adorable twin girls. 2 girls, as alike as 2 peas in a pod, and very much like their mother. Matthew was their godfather, and let's be honest, he loved them like his own. The girls, although they were only 4 years old, felt this perfectly and took full advantage of it. Not long ago, there was an incident that they still laughed about, and Olivia only smiled and said, "Like children, honestly. I'll see what you do when you completely spoil them. Then I'll bring them to you, Matthew." "All right, I agree. Otherwise it's quiet and annoyingly perfectly tidy in my castle." It happened about 3 months ago. Mary and Marina had done something naughty at home. Generally, the girls weren't overly active, and certainly not excessively curious. But this time, their mother's patience snapped. Apparently, they had cut their mother's dresses because they had heard their father telling their mother that all her dresses hid her beautiful legs. Of course, William found it funny, but Olivia was seriously angry. "That's it. Stay in your room. No cartoons. And most importantly, no ice cream." This was a blow below the belt, because for ice cream, the twins would give anything in the world. They tried to appeal to their father for justice, but William was immediately banished to work by his angry mother. There was nothing to do but shed tears. But then a brilliant idea came to Marina. They decided to steal their mother's phone and call their godfather. Any child knew how to use a phone, and finding their godfather by photo was not difficult at all. Mary kept an eye on their mother, and Marina crawled almost on her belly to steal the phone. They immediately locked themselves in their room and called Matthew. He was in a meeting, which, by the way, Will was also attending. When Matthew saw who was calling, he looked at William in surprise, but answered. A real squeal started in the receiver. The girls explained in turns that their mother had been unfair. She had promised ice cream and now wouldn't give it to them. In short, the meeting was quickly adjourned. Matthew told Will to follow him. They stopped at the nearest store, where Matthew bought a whole large bag of ice cream. And on the way to William's house, he told him everything. The girls shrieked and hugged Uncle Matthew. Will hid behind him, choking with laughter, while Olivia looked at all this chaos in confusion. However, she warned that one more such stunt, and she would deprive his goddaughters of ice cream for a year. He looked out the window. Before him lay the city where they had started from the very bottom. There were many like them here, and each fought for their place in the sun. Now he was a respected man. His eagles guarded all sorts of people and escorted all sorts of objects. His selection process was strict. Everyone had to pass physical fitness tests, and everyone worked with a psychologist. By the way, the psychologist, Dr. Collins, was a young lady, but very, very accomplished. She practiced not only with him, but also in other firms. Matthew knew that she dreamed of her own office, if not a clinic, then at least a private practice. He knew she was saving money for it. From time to time, they met alone. They felt good together. Not only was Dr. Collins an excellent specialist, she also looked beautiful and had a fiery temperament. Neither of them thought about tying their fates together. Both were absorbed in work and were married to their careers. "Mr. Roberts, may I come in?" Nancy, his secretary, peeked into the office. He had literally saved this girl from death. Once, she had tried to jump off a bridge after her boyfriend left her. It was such a complicated story. Nancy had the misfortune of running into a gigolo. She lived alone in an apartment she inherited from her parents, who died young. So he pulled off a love scam, leaving Nancy without her apartment and without means of subsistence. Matthew was just returning from some party. It was deep night when he saw her. He literally grabbed her by the hair and collar and pulled her back. A couple of times she hit him with her fists, screaming for him to let her go. They found the bad boy, returned Nancy's apartment, and then hired her. And Nancy didn't disappoint. It seemed she remembered and knew absolutely everything. Matthew couldn't understand how all this information didn't get mixed up in her head. "Of course, Nan, come in." Nan had visibly blossomed in the 6 months she had worked for them. She was only 20, and she looked even younger, like 18. "Mr. Roberts, everything you ordered has been delivered. The guard put everything in the car. He has the keys." "Thank you, Nan." He saw that the girl was hesitating, apparently wanting to say something else, and she didn't seem to know how. "Nan, something else?" She shook her hair. "Yes, Mr. Roberts. You've done so much for me. I don't know what would have happened to me if it weren't for you and William Andrews. This is getting interesting. You haven't decided to quit, have you? I'm against it." "No, not at all." She held something out to him. Matthew took the firm cardboard square in his hands. A wedding invitation. "Well, I'll be." He opened the invitation. Victor and Nancy. Victor was one of their young programmers. "And when did you find the time?" He smiled at the girl, and she spoke with excitement. "You absolutely must be there. You are dearer to me than any relatives." "Nan, quiet, quiet. Of course I'll be there." The girl stumbled, then looked at him with disbelief. "Really? Well, of course, Nan." Suddenly, she rushed to him and hugged him. "Thank you." She quickly ran out the door. That was the last they saw of her. Matthew chuckled. Well, Nancy is getting married too. Only he was constantly alone. His mother would scold him again. Yes, Mr. Harrison had joined her. The last time they came to visit, he persistently hinted at children, no less than his mother did. When they went outside to make shashlik, Matthew said to him in an offended tone, "Well, I didn't expect this from anyone, but not from you." "No, Matthew, you're wrong. You know I don't have my own children. You are like a son to me. You understand that I can only play with your children. And besides, it's time for you to get married." Matthew grabbed his head. Mr. Harrison laughed. He hadn't been home for almost 7 years. Only they came to visit him. But Matthew just couldn't bring himself to go. And just yesterday, he woke up in the middle of the night and realized that he wanted to wander through the streets of his hometown, walk along the embankment, and visit Mr. Davies's restaurant. The decision came immediately. He would go visit his mother for a week. How long could he keep remembering that one night? How long could he keep remembering how wrong he was about that person? An hour later, Matthew was getting into his car. He pulled out his phone. "Mom? Hi. How are things with you?" "Hi, son. Everything's good. How are you doing there?" "I just got in the car. I'll be there by night. By night? Where? At your place, Mom. Where else? Silence fell on the other end of the line. Then his mother shouted, Alex, Matthew's coming. Get ready. To the store. Sonny, you can't imagine how happy I am. How happy we are. Just be careful, okay? Okay, Mum. I'll be very careful. And you don't need to go to the store. I'm bringing everything. The whole trunk is full. Sonny, what are you saying? We're really looking forward to seeing you. He fought off memories the whole way, but they kept flooding his mind. Matthew even got angry. So many years had passed, he thought everything had burned out. But no. He kept remembering Anna again and again. Damn, damn, damn. Then he started imagining that she and that Simon already had 3 children and were happy. It didn't work out very well. Then he started thinking that Anna had become an alcoholic. It got even worse. In the end, he resigned himself and just remembered what had been between them. He wondered what she was like now. Where? What? Of course, he wouldn't ask about anything, wouldn't find out anything from anyone. It was too late for everything. He should have done it earlier. If he hadn't been so young then, he certainly wouldn't have left. He was sure that Anna loved him, but something or someone stood between them. This reason was stronger than love. The town appeared in the distance. Matthew smiled. He was almost home. By habit, he turned onto his street, but caught himself in time. His mother and Alex had bought a good, large house in the centre 3 years ago. Not without his help, which he was very proud of. True, houses here cost ridiculously little money, but they also paid ridiculously little. So his mother and Alex saved up from their small business. He was a little offended at them. Couldn't you have told me? Wouldn't I have bought you a house? His mother waved her hands. What are you saying, Matthew? You help us so much already. It was then that his mother first spoke to him about a topic they had both never mentioned. Forgive me, son. Now I remember with horror what I was doing. It was as if it wasn't me, but someone else. I'm so ashamed, so hurt for you. Mum, that's all in the past. Everything is settled. Everything is fine. Fine is fine. But if it weren't for you, for Alex, I don't know if I would have been able to get out of it or not. Mum, tell me the secret. What did he say to you back then? You looked scared. And then bam, and you were in a relationship. I thought he had scared you. You could say that. He said he would take you away if I didn't need you. But before that, he skillfully beat up my friends. And I got scared. Somehow I hadn't paid attention to you. If you were nearby, that was enough. But then something clicked in my brain. I looked at myself in the mirror, looked at our apartment, and almost went crazy from what I saw. Well, and then you know everything yourself. The only thing that weighed on Matthew his whole life was precisely this episode. He was very afraid to find out that Alex had once hurt his mother, perhaps even hit her. After the conversation, he breathed freely. He had no reason to be offended at Alex, and besides, he had never seen his mother so happy before. A laid table awaited him at home. Of course, he had no doubt that his mother wouldn't listen to him. There was so much food prepared that you could easily feed a whole company of soldiers. Mom, why so much? Eat, eat. You've become so thin there in your capital. You need to get married so your wife can look after your diet. Mr. Harrison chuckled. Matthew did too. He looked like a young boar, to be honest. Plus the gym and his physique was very impressive. But his mother knew best. If she said he was thin, then he was thin, as long as she didn't latch onto her favourite topic again. So Matthew hurried to ask, What's new with you? Have you seen any of our people? I don't even know. Just 3 days ago, I met Pete. Remember Pete in glasses? Of course, I remember. We always copied tests from him. The excellent student who was a failure. That's just it. He is a failure. He got married 2 years ago. A good girl, not from here. They had a strong love there. Her parents were against it, but they got married anyway. Then she got sick. The doctors don't give any guarantees. He told me, drunk. Aunt Mrs. Miller, I never drank, but now I can't. I just can't. I feel sorry for him. To go crazy like that. And what did she get sick with? It's... Oh, he said the name, but it's such a complicated name that I immediately forgot. I need to go visit him. Maybe I can help somehow. Go, Matthew. At least support him. Most people have moved away. Oh, and I met William's mother yesterday. You should tell him to come visit her. Mum, you know he won't come. He has to, Matthew. She has cancer. Barely alive, completely transparent. Of course, there's no one around. Who needs a sick old woman? What is going on? Only bad news. I'll call him today. Why? There's good news too. Remember Nellie? Our neighbour from the first floor? So round with freckles. Well, she's not round now. Just a little plumpness left. She also got married. How? She's just a kid. You're kidding. When you left, she was 13. No way. Yes. But that's not the main thing. Her husband is a good, simple guy, very polite. And just 2 days ago, they became parents. And you won't believe it. She gave birth to triplets. Matthew looked at his mother. Are you serious? She's so short. His mother laughed. Exactly. 3 girls. And Nellie really is only about a meter tall. Her mother is so lucky. Now she has 3 granddaughters at once. Matthew felt danger again. Okay, Mum. Let's go out into the yard. I hope you'll show me your property. His mother smiled, immediately understanding that her son was changing the subject. Well, it was okay. He said he would stay for a week. She would definitely introduce him to the daughters of all her acquaintances. They inspected the entire yard. Alex showed them the gazebo and the trees they had planted. You're real feudal lords. Mrs. Miller laughed. You won't believe how I always dreamed of exactly this kind of house. All right, tomorrow we'll grill meat outside. Matthew imagined how it would all be, and sighed. It seemed he had landed in paradise. He slept that night, as if he had never slept before. His mother woke him up almost at noon. Get up, sleepyhead. You'll sleep the whole day away. Matthew stretched. What time is it? It's already 12. He sat up in bed. It can't be. I'm waiting for you in the kitchen. He got up and reached for his phone. He hadn't called William yesterday. It was already late. Hello, hi. Great. Miss me already? Well, not exactly. I have something to talk about. William tensed up. Did something happen? Well, you could say that. My mother met yours the other day. Matthew, why are you telling me this? You know I couldn't care less. Wait, don't get worked up. Your mother has cancer, and there's no one around at all. My mother says she looks very bad already. There was silence on the line. Then Will asked, How will the company manage without us for a few days? It'll be fine. Everything is set up. Nancy will call if anything comes up. Yes, you need to come, and leave instructions about what papers are needed. Okay. Thank you, Matthew. Give me a call when you arrive. Okay. William was in the city after lunch. He called Matthew immediately. Can you come with me? Somehow. Alone. Of course. I'll be there in a minute. Where are you? I'm at Mr. Davies's restaurant. Matthew drove up. William's car was empty. He was probably inside. Will was indeed inside. He was sitting at a table with Mr. Davies, sipping coffee. Mr. Davies immediately exclaimed, "Matthew, I wouldn't have recognized you. I didn't recognize you at all at first. Oh, I would never have recognized you." They hugged. Matthew's heart even ached. Everything here was so familiar, so many memories. He immediately remembered Anna. Anna again. Lately, she just wouldn't leave his mind. Half an hour later, they were approaching William's house. He was noticeably nervous. Matthew asked, "What are you planning to do?" "Olivia is already preparing a room. Her father has a good friend who runs a clinic that specializes in these diseases. She'll rest for a day, and then go straight there." "You decided to take your mother?" "I can't do otherwise, Matthew. I'm proud to have a friend like you." "Stop it. Let's go." He rang the doorbell. No one opened for a long time. Then shuffling steps were heard. The door opened, and Matthew was taken aback. A hunched old woman stood before them, and William's mother was only a few years older than his own mother. She raised her head and looked at them for a long time. "Mom!" And then she started crying. "Willie, Sonny, why didn't you call? Mom!" He hugged his mother. She wrapped her two thin, childlike arms around him and couldn't stop crying. Willie, forgive me. Get ready, Mom." "Where?" "Where else? To my place, to us. Olivia is waiting for you there, and two little girls, Mary and Marina." "Oh, Lord, I'll be quick." The woman seemed to gain strength. She walked quickly, putting things into a bag. But Matthew saw the sweat running down her face. It was very hard for her. It seemed she was hurrying so her son wouldn't change his mind. After seeing William off, Matthew decided to take a walk. He didn't even notice how he ended up in the very place where he and Anna had once been. His heart ached. Why? Why was he so lucky to fall in love with a girl who turned out to be just trash? He sat down on the grass. Someone stopped next to him. Matthew didn't turn around. He wanted to be alone, and he really hoped that person would leave. But the person not only didn't leave, but also sniffled very loudly. Matthew turned around irritably and was slightly stunned. A girl about 6 years old stood behind him. She was tearful, dressed very poorly. But that wasn't what attracted his attention. The child held a small coloured pendant in her hands, exactly the same one that Anna had once taken from him. "Hey, are you lost?" The girl sniffled and nodded. "Where is your mother?" "Mom was taken to the hospital, and I went to look for her." "And where is your father?" "I don't know. I've never seen him. But Mom said that if Dad was around, everything would be fine for us." Matthew's palms sweated. "Sweetheart, what is your mother's name?" "Anna." "Did your mother say what your father's name is?" "Yes, Matthew. Only Mom said that he's not in our city. I wanted to go to another city, but they didn't let me, and even wanted to give me to the police. I ran away." The girl sniffled and looked at him. "And who are you?" He couldn't answer. Now he remembered something, and his hair just stood on end. About 3 years ago, they had just moved into the new office. The guard called him. "Mr. Roberts, there's a girl here who wants to see you with a child. She says the child is yours." Matthew had rolled his eyes then. How tired he was of these brides. He was already sick of doing DNA tests, and every time it turned out they were just trying to trick him. This time, he didn't even bother to investigate. "Get her out of here, and don't let her in again." How could she be so brazen? Others at least did it quietly, but she showed up and told everyone this nonsense. Could it have been Anna? Did he turn her away? Are you hungry? Very. Let's go to my place. My mother is there. She cooks very well. Are you telling the truth? Yes. Okay, let's go then. The girl put the pendant in her pocket and closed the pocket with a snap. Matthew couldn't resist. What is that you have? My dad made it when I wasn't born yet, and Mom didn't know I would be. They walked up to the car. Is this yours? It is. I like it. It's very beautiful. Settling comfortably, the girl extended her hand to him. My name is Katie, and I'm Matthew. He said it without thinking, but the girl immediately quieted down and looked at him strangely. When they stopped, she couldn't help herself. Are you my dad? I don't know, Katie Pie. You'll tell us everything. I'll go see your mother, and then we'll find out everything together. Agreed? Yes. I also thought I would go to Aunt Olivia's, but no one is home there. I knocked and knocked. I thought I would go later in the evening, but then you were there. Let's go. He carefully lifted her into his arms and set her down on the path. Katie looked around. Is this your house? It's my mother's house. It's beautiful. Mrs. Miller came out to meet them, looked at Matthew in surprise, and then stared at the girl. Matthew saw his mother's eyes widen. Matthew, who is this? Mum, I'll explain everything soon, but for now we have a problem. Katie is very hungry. Mrs. Miller immediately bustled about. Come on, sweetheart, come on. We'll have lunch now. She led the girl away, and Matthew rushed to the car. There were cigarettes somewhere in the glove compartment. He saw that someone he knew had forgotten them. Here they were. He lit one, coughed, and immediately someone took the cigarette from him. Why are you doing that? Mr. Harrison stood beside him. He looked thoughtfully at Matthew. Did you notice how much the child looks like Mrs. Miller? Matthew almost slapped himself on the forehead. Of course. And he had been wondering the whole way what was bothering him so much. And I was wondering who it was. It's a very long story. First, we need to ask the girl and find out where her mother is. They all sat opposite Katie, who was heartily eating mashed potatoes and a cutlet. Mom used to make me cutlets too, a long time ago. Then we didn't have money, and we just ate mashed potatoes. Mrs. Miller glanced at Matthew, then turned to Katie. Honey Bunny, where is Mom now? Mom was taken to the hospital. We were walking home, and Mom got sick. She fell. The neighbors called an ambulance. And Mom, when they were taking her away, kept whispering, Find Dad, find Dad. And she didn't open her eyes. Aunt Linda wanted to take me in, but she has Paulie, he fights, and I ran away. At first I cried, then I got hungry and went to Aunt Olivia's. She always feeds me because Mom is often sick and can't always cook. But she wasn't home. I went to the park, we often sit there with Mum, and that man was in our spot. Matthew was ready to kick himself. He stood up. Mom, come outside with me. Mrs. Miller immediately stood up and followed her son. Mom, I understand that everything needs to be checked, but everything points to Katie being my daughter. I already understood that, Matthew. Only I didn't understand. You didn't know anything about her? No, Mom. But how could you think that I would hide something like that from you? I need to leave. Find Alice, then the hospital where Anna... Her name is Anna. Yes. Okay, son, go. I'll manage. They returned to the room. Katie had moved to the sofa and was engrossed in watching television. She was yawning desperately, But the cartoons were also interesting. Mrs. Miller immediately took a blanket and put a pillow under the girl's head. Lie down. It will be more comfortable to watch. Katie lay down. Mrs. Miller covered the girl. She immediately closed her eyes and only managed to whisper, "I need to find Dad." Matthew rushed out of the house. He needed to go to the restaurant. Of course, a lot of time had passed, but maybe Alice's address was still there. Mr. Davies, of course, was surprised by such a request, but strangely enough, he found the address quickly. Only I'm not sure she still lives there, but the main thing is, it's something. Matthew pressed the doorbell, praying for only one thing, that Alice still lived there. The door swung open, and he exhaled. "Hello, good evening. Are you here for me?" She peered into the guest's face, and then suddenly whistled. "It can't be. Mr. Matthew himself. What brings you to me?" "Alice, you have to tell me everything about Anna." "Why all of a sudden?" Alice looked at him with an indifferent gaze, and Matthew realized that she knew about Anna's visit to him. "Because Katie, her daughter, and, as I understand it, mine too, is at our house right now. And Anna is in the hospital, and I don't really understand what's happening." "In the hospital?" "Yes, Katie came to you, but no one was home. We were at the Dacha. Anna felt fine yesterday. I didn't think, damn it! Okay, come in." She stepped aside, and Matthew went where she indicated. "Tea? No, tell me." Alice sat down in front of him and looked into his eyes. "Frankly, I should just tell you to get lost. But if anyone can help them now, it's only you. Back then, many years ago, Anna was studying. Her mother was very ill. She could barely walk. She needed an operation that cost a lot of money even then. Or rather, the operation itself was free, but she had to go to another city, live there, undergo rehabilitation. They didn't have money for all this. Anna got a job as a waitress because all the money went to supportive medication. After that scandal, that same Simon started coming to the restaurant frequently. He literally stalked Anna and then offered her a deal. He would pay for her mother's operation, and Anna would marry him. And if Anna tried to divorce him, she would have to pay him the entire sum. Matthew clenched his fists. What an idiot he was. He should have guessed immediately that something was wrong. But no, he played the offended party, ran away like a blushing maiden. Alice continued. Anna hated him terribly. He knew it. Sometimes he beat her. And then you. She rushed to you like a drowning person. She always said that there was only one night in this life when she was happy. And Simon? He kept giving her promises. As it turned out, after his uncle was kicked out of the police, there was no one to cover for his father, and things went downhill sharply. Simon simply didn't have the money. A year later, Anna's mother passed away. She never got the operation. Then Anna started packing her things. Katie was only a month old then. But he couldn't just let her go. He beat her badly. I took Katie then, and Simon was put in jail. There was no protection anymore, and no one wanted to stand up for him just like that, because he was a bad person. That time, he damaged something in her head. Anna had an operation, but the doctors didn't give any prognosis. But she pulled through. She spent almost 6 months in the hospital. Then she couldn't work. She had terrible headaches. She endured it for a long time, and when she lost consciousness right at a pedestrian crossing, she went to you. You were already a big shot back then. She didn't want anything from you, just a promise. If she was gone, if something happened, you wouldn't abandon Katie. But you turned her away. I didn't know it was Anna. I understand you didn't know, Sitting high, looking far, but not seeing what's under your nose? Oh well, what's done is done. Anyway, we don't know where Simon is now. We were afraid he would come back and finish her off, but he hasn't. Maybe he was killed himself. Anna was evicted from their apartment. It was sold at auction. She returned to the apartment where she lived with her mother. Well, as you understand, life was very hard for her. The payout was minimal. Working was impossible. Sometimes she went to clean for neighbors or through ads, but she couldn't do much either. She got very tired. That's basically it. Katie. Yes, she told me about you. I was against it, but Anna is stubborn. Matthew sat in silence. And all of this could have been avoided if he hadn't behaved that way. And what hospital could she have been taken to? You're kidding! As if you haven't lived here for 20 years. We only have 3: children's, adult, and the maternity hospital. Listen, I didn't even think about that. Thank you. And for the story, and for Anna, and for Katie. I won't be in your debt. He rushed out of the apartment, started the car immediately. To the hospital now, and then think further. He wasn't allowed past the reception area. Young man, have you looked at the time? What visits? He looked at his watch. 8 p.m. Damn. How did time pass so quickly? Well, can I at least ask for a doctor? I beg you. They called a doctor for him. Tell me. Please, Anna. She was brought to you from the street today. How is she? Maybe she needs something. And who are you to her? I'm an acquaintance, a former boyfriend. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I have to help her. We have a child together. Interesting. An acquaintance, a child together. Young man, have you been drinking by any chance? I haven't been drinking. I haven't been in the city for 7 years, and I didn't know we had a child. The doctor looked at him carefully, took out a pack of cigarettes. Let's go outside. You can't see her anyway. She's in intensive care. In intensive care? It's that serious? Of course. How could she not love herself so much? She was told long ago she needs an operation. After the blow, a growth formed there that is pressing down. But we're all waiting for a miracle, aren't we? Why can't it be done now? We have... I beg you. I'm an ENT doctor, and I'm burdened with all the positions here. There's no one to work, no specialists. Okay. When can she be transferred? That, I can't tell you. She waited too long. It's unknown if she'll wake up this time or not. Matthew looked at the doctor. No, not this. He had just found Anna, Katie, and now he was going to lose her immediately? I'll figure something out. I'll bring doctors. From where? From Geneva? From the capital? The doctor chuckled humorlessly. Exactly from there. Everyone will be here tomorrow. Are you joking? No, I'm not joking. So tell me immediately what else is needed. The doctor took out a notebook and wrote something. Matthew took it. The first line was lamps. I don't understand. We only have 1 lamp left in the operating room. You can remove an appendix under that light, but you certainly can't dig into someone's head. I understand. Everything will be there. Matthew jumped into the car. He was driving home, calling William on the way. Hi, how are things with you? Hi, things are actually not bad. You know, Mom liked Olivia and the granddaughters so much they didn't want to let her go to the hospital. But now she's there, and the doctor said things are bad, but not completely critical. There are chances, even if small. Mum says her life is just beginning, so she's going to fight. I believe her. How about you? Will, help me. I need a team of surgeons to come here. You won't believe it, but I have a daughter, and her mother is between life and death right now, and they can't help her here at all. It's a complicated operation. On the brain. William whistled. Wow, what news? I'll try to figure something out. I'll ask my father-in-law. Will, all hope is on you. I told you I'll do everything I can. A daughter? And how old is she? She's 6. 6 something. Her name is Katie. Well, brother, you're something else. Keep your phone close. As soon as I find out anything, I'll call immediately. Thank you. Thank you. You should have come to see your mother a long time ago. Matthew put down the phone. While he was talking, he had stopped, and now he saw that he was standing near the only shopping centre in this city. Some man came out of the doors. He was proudly carrying a huge plush bear. Matthew jumped out of the car and rushed inside. 20 minutes later, he came out with a large bag of clothes for Katie and a box. And in the box was a very beautiful doll with blue hair and a whole suitcase of dresses. He found his family in the kitchen. Katie was heartily eating pancakes that Mrs. Miller had made. But at the same time, the girl managed to argue with Alex. They were talking about butterflies, or birds, in general, about things that fly. Sonny, what do you have there? Matthew glanced at Katie and smiled. Apparently his mother had just bathed her. The girl was sparkling clean, dressed in Alex's shirt, the sleeves rolled up, and she herself was barely visible in the shirt. Matthew handed his mother the bag. There's a pajama, some dresses. I don't really know. I just gave her age and said she needed everything for the first time. Mrs. Miller peeked into the bag, then turned to Katie. Well, Princess, shall we go try on your new clothes? Katie clapped her hands. And there, and for you, let's go. Half an hour later, a flushed Katie returned in new bunny pajamas, pom-pom slippers, and a robe. She came up to Matthew. Thank you. He was flustered. You're welcome. I have something else. He held out a large box to her. The girl could barely hold it. Mrs. Miller rushed to her. Let me help you. She opened the box, and Katie gasped. The girl touched the doll's hair with her fingers, ran her fingers over the beads on its neck. How beautiful she is. What will you name her? Anna. She's as beautiful as my mom. Mrs. Miller looked at Matthew, and then back at Katie. Tears rolled down the girl's cheeks, fast, fast. Matthew knelt beside her. But why are you crying? Don't you like the doll? I like it, very much. It's just that you bought me so many things. I'm so happy here. And Mom is there alone. They will cure her. Matthew hugged her. Of course, they will cure her. Very good doctors will come from the city where I live. They will operate on Mom, and everything will be fine. Mom will never have anything hurt again. Really? The girl looked at him disbelievingly, then hugged him around the neck. You know, I knew right away that you were my dad. Because you have kind eyes. And Mom said that my dad has the kindest eyes. Will you save Mom? Mom said that when Dad is around, everything will be fine. Mrs. Miller turned away, wiping away tears, and Matthew looked into the girl's eyes. I promise you, now everything will be fine. Well, shall we go dress Anna? Let's go. Matthew happily helped Katie dress the doll, even acting as a stylist when they chose which jacket would go with white pants. Then they settled on the sofa to watch cartoons, and they both fell asleep like that. Mrs. Miller covered them with a blanket and dimmed the light. Will called at 4 a.m. They'll be there around 9. Meet them at the entrance to the city so they don't get lost. Will? I'm in your debt forever? Stop it. We're like brothers. No need to keep score of who owes what. Go on. Good luck there. Thank you. In the morning, Matthew was standing at the entrance to the city. A black minivan stopped next to him. He waved at the driver and drove ahead. The operation began 2 hours later. He stayed in the corridor the whole time. A nurse tried to kick him out, but he looked at her in such a way that she didn't bother him again. While sitting, he thought about many things. Then he started examining the pictures on the wall. He walked around, sat down again. There was some noise in the corridor. He turned his head. A woman was being wheeled on a gurney, apparently brought by ambulance, and a man in glasses was running beside her. "Susie, I'm here. Everything will be fine, don't worry." The woman looked past him somewhere and didn't answer. And there was such detachment in her gaze that Matthew felt uneasy. Pete wasn't allowed into the room. He sat down on a chair in the corridor and buried his head in his hands. Matthew had promised his mother he would visit him, but he got so caught up. He walked over and sat down next to him. "Hey, Pete." He raised his head and looked at Matthew. Apparently, he couldn't figure out who was in front of him. Then he smiled weakly. "Matthew, is that you? What's wrong with your wife?" Pete waved his hand. "Don't ask. In the last 6 months, they've given her 3 diagnoses. They say she needs to go to a big city, where there's equipment, where there are doctors." "Well, why aren't you going?" "Because you need money to go. I work 2 shifts, and the money—" "Oh, don't ask. I can't stand to watch my Susie fading away, and I can't do anything about it. So I don't understand. It all comes down to money." "It does." "Do you have a card?" "A card? Well, I have a bank card. Why do you need it?" "I need it. Give it here." Pete obediently took out the card, and Matthew took out his phone. He transferred a large sum to Pete's card. "Bye." And in his pocket, he bent his phone. Pete looked at the SMS, then at Matthew. "What are you doing? We can't pay you back." "It's nothing. You'll pay me back in the next life. Leave tomorrow. Here's the address. It's my house. I'll warn the housekeeper that you'll stay with us while she's being examined. Although your wife will probably be admitted. Well, it's okay. You'll live alone." Matthew stood up. Pete also jumped up. He was pale, stammering, and couldn't start talking. "Matthew, I'll work it off. I'll pay it all back. Thank you." "You're welcome." Matthew looked at him thoughtfully. "You know, money is nothing compared to the life of a loved one." He walked away and sat down again on the chair near the operating room. He closed his eyes. Maybe he even dozed off, because when the door opened, he jumped up sharply, not fully understanding where he was. The doctor who had come from the capital approached him. "Well, the girl was born lucky. 1 more day and the operation wouldn't have helped. But now everything is fine. As fine as it can be for someone with a hole in their head." The doctor laughed at his own joke. "Well, shall I take a look at your patients then? While I'm in a good mood?" They immediately led him to where Susan, Pete's wife, had been brought recently. "You know, it's a completely inexplicable case." The doctor he had spoken to yesterday came up to Matthew. "Yes, so many years in medicine, and I still continue to be amazed at what a person is capable of. And not just the patient. And a doctor can never be replaced by a robot in a person, because everyone is different. You can come tomorrow after lunch. I'll let you in for 5 minutes. Doctors, everything is fine. Go rest." Matthew went home and immediately sat down on the threshold by the door. It turned out he was so tired, and he hadn't even noticed it. He raised his head. His mother, Katie, and Mr. Harrison were looking at him. The same question was in everyone's eyes. Everything is fine. The operation was successful. You can visit for 5 minutes tomorrow after lunch. Katie shrieked and rushed to hug him. He hugged her thin little body and only now realized that he was now fully responsible for this small, cheerful girl. In the morning, Katie was already dressed. "Where are you going so early?" "To Mom." "But they won't let us in until after lunch." "It's okay. I'll wait." Matthew smiled. What could he say to her to make her change and play for a while? Nothing. So he said, "Well then, let's eat and go for a walk, and then we'll go see Mom." "Yes, yes." Anna tossed and turned restlessly. "Katie, where am I? Katie!" She opened her eyes. Everything was white. Hospital. So she had lost consciousness again. A nurse appeared nearby. "How are you feeling? What's the date today?" Words came out of her throat with great difficulty. "The 21st. "Oh, the last thing I remember is the 18th. "Where is she?" "Katie, I need to go. I have a daughter." "Lie still. You just had surgery yesterday. Where are you going?" "Surgery?" Anna listened to herself. Exactly. There was a bandage on her head. But her head didn't hurt, only under the bandage on top. So they were able to do it here after all? But they sent her daughter somewhere. "You're strange. Both your daughter and your husband are waiting in the corridor. Some people get lucky with husbands. He brought doctors from the capital and saved another life just like that, you could say, passing by." The nurse pursed her lips, and Anna froze. Husband. What husband? Doctors from the capital? Matthew? No, it couldn't be. The door to the room burst open and a cry filled it. "Mommy!" Anna felt a tear roll down her cheek. "Sweetheart!" Katie was dressed like she was on the cover of a fashion magazine. Anna looked at her in surprise, and the girl turned around a few times. "Do you like it? Dad bought all this for me. Dad!" "Hi, Anna." She turned her head slightly. Her arms felt numb. "Matthew, quiet. You can scold me later. We only have 5 minutes. Katie is fine. We're staying at my mother's. Don't worry. She likes eating with us. We'll come see you every day. And forgive me, you silly fool." He said all this in one breath. Anna smiled weakly, and Katie immediately whispered in her ear, but very loudly, "Mum, Dad said everything will be fine for us now." "Yes, sweetheart. If Dad said so, that's how it will be." Anna was discharged a month later. She had noticeably improved, her paleness was gone, and she had gained some weight. There was no need to talk about Katie. She was a completely different child. Matthew couldn't even remember how lost and thin she had been in the park then. Now he understood one thing. Children have about as much energy as a spaceship. It sometimes runs out, but it recovers in 5 minutes. And children only stop asking questions when they are asleep. He handed Anna flowers and opened the car door. "To my parents' place now and tomorrow home." "Home?" "Yes, home, to Moscow. Or is there something keeping you here?" Anna smiled and shook her head negatively. "No. The most precious things to me are right here now. That's you and Katie." Matthew didn't have time to answer. Someone was running towards them through the hospital park and shouting. "Is that Pete? Has something happened to his wife?" "Matthew!" He couldn't catch his breath. "What happened? What happened? My Susan is getting better. Matthew, I want to thank you." Pete wanted to fall to his knees, but Matthew caught him in time. "What are you doing? Have you gone completely mad? Live and be happy." Don't delay having children. Children are happiness. Pete wiped away tears and kept muttering words of gratitude. They got into the car. Well, shall we go meet your in-laws? Katie jumped up and down. Grandma baked a cake today? I helped too. Anna closed her eyes. What a happy fool she was. But happy. How many times had Alice told her to visit Matthew's mother? But no, some foolish pride. Matthew didn't need her. She had turned him away herself. If only she had known how much could have been avoided. But on the other hand, she wouldn't have these moments of absolute, complete happiness now. Mommy! Yes, Katie. Does Dad ever lie? No, of course not. Anna smiled. What happened? Nothing, Mommy, nothing. It's just that Dad promised me a little brother or sister soon. Anna choked, and Matthew asked sympathetically, Maybe some water? His face was so innocent that Anna couldn't help but laugh. While everyone was laughing, they didn't immediately hear Matthew's phone ringing in his pocket. Hello. Yes, Nancy. What's wrong with your voice? What happened? Oh, well, of course I didn't forget. I just forgot when. I'll definitely be there the day after tomorrow. Only, Nancy, I'm not alone. My wife and daughter are with me. A wail or a shriek came from the receiver. Matthew even had to move it away from his ear a little. Understood. By 2:00. He hung up and looked at his girls. Well, is social life beginning? The day after tomorrow, we're going to a wedding, a very famous restaurant in Moscow. We'll have to leave early tomorrow. You need outfits too. You must always be the most beautiful girls. A year and a half passed. Nancy and Anna were sitting in the park. I don't feel well at all today. Nancy rubbed her lower back. And I've been aching all morning. Where did they go? I don't know. They went for ice cream, as if they were going overseas. By the time Matthew and Victor returned, their wives were quite on edge. Nan and Anna had become very good friends, and from time to time, their husbands had to accompany them, very rounded, to the park for a walk. It just so happened that they were due at the same time, and today both felt that their bad mood wouldn't just pass. Victor, why did it take so long? Honey Bunny, the line was long. Anna looked at Matthew. He looked at how pale his wife had become in fright. What are you looking at? Take us to the hospital. Now the husbands turned pale. Matthew asked cautiously, Why? Anna wanted to laugh, but a contraction made her gasp. Matthew, don't ask stupid questions. If Matthew thought he would never be as scared as when Anna had her operation, he was very wrong. When they got stuck in traffic, and he was in the back seat next to Anna, Matthew thought he would go grey. They arrived at the house as if they were racing. Matthew scooped his wife into his arms and ran towards the reception area. Victor followed close behind. However, Nancy walked proudly on her own. 2 hours of tense fear. What if they were too late? What if something went wrong? Then the door opened. To Matthew, it seemed like the gates of heaven, and the nurse was a good angel who said loudly, Well, daddies, you have strong boys, heroes. Matthew suddenly felt weak. He leaned against the car and almost cried. A son. He was the happiest man in the whole world. He had a smart, beautiful daughter, a smart, beautiful wife, and now a son. What else could he wish for from this life? For some reason, Mr. Harrison's words came to mind. The main thing is to at least try to fix what you can. And Matthew had listened to his advice.